In 1879, a miner named Patrick Flanagan descended 3,000 feet into the Comstock lode in Nevada. He had made that drop hundreds of times, walked those tunnels thousands of times. But that day, he saw something that forced him to break a 30-year silence on his deathbed. He confessed to a priest. The priest wrote it down in the church ledger, and then that page was ripped out. The original vanished, forever, or almost forever. Flanagan's daughter, Mary, had made a copy. She transcribed it word for word and hid that single sheet of paper inside the family Bible. She expected someone would try to destroy the record. She was right. 3 months after her father died, the priest casually informed her the entry was lost. Mary kept her copy a secret for 40 years. She never showed a soul. In 1949, she passed the Bible down to her niece. The niece didn't even know it was in there. She found it entirely by accident 20 years later, read it, and immediately locked the Bible in a cabinet. She wasn't just terrified of what it said. She was terrified someone would find out she had read it. Fast forward to 1989, and her daughter, Flanagan's great-granddaughter, donated the Bible to the Nevada Historical Society. An archivist skimmed the page and told her, "We'll accept this, but we can't promise it'll make it into the public catalog." Kathleen asked why. The answer? "We have documents we keep but don't show. It's standard practice." What was on that document? What kept an entire family terrified into silence for 80 years? What exactly did Flanagan see 3,000 feet underground? The paper describes something that simply shouldn't exist at that depth. Not silver ore, not dead bedrock, not an underground river. He found a door. Forged iron. Rusted, but not rusted through. Behind it lay an opening. He raised his lamp and saw stairs, stone steps, spiraling down, even deeper into the earth. Patrick Flanagan was born in Ireland in 1837. He came to America in 1856, escaping the famine like thousands of others. The Comstock lode was discovered in 1859. By the 1870s, it was the richest silver strike in U.S. history. Virginia City exploded out of the desert in just 10 years. 30,000 people, 100 saloons, 6 churches, and a permanent, lingering stench of sulfur. Flanagan went underground in 1865. For 14 years, he worked at depths up to 2,000 feet. In 1879, they transferred him down to the 3,000-foot level. Only the toughest, most experienced guys went down there, the ones the mountain hadn't killed yet. 3,000 feet, that's over half a mile straight down. Temperatures hit 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The air was so dead that regular candles just snuffed out. They had to use special double-draft lamps just to see. Massive steam pumps pulled water out 24 hours a day. Without them, the mine would flood in 3 days. If the pumps stopped, work stopped. If work stopped, you were fired. And getting fired in Virginia City in 1879 meant one of 2 things. You go to another mine, or your family starves. The average life expectancy for a Comstock miner was 35. You went down young, and you came up an old man, if you came up at all. Thousands of bodies are still down there. Cave-ins, toxic gas, dynamite blasts. The mine fed you, but it also killed you. Flanagan outlasted them all. 14 years in hell, and he was still breathing. He knew the rock. He knew how to track a silver vein. But that day, he wasn't looking for silver. He was looking for water. At 3,000 feet, the pumps had run dry. No water meant a shutdown. A shutdown meant a fine. A fine meant a week without pay. Flanagan volunteered to look. He knew the side drifts better than anyone. He grabbed his pickaxe, his lamp, and walked into the dark. He headed down a drift no one had touched in years. The air was incredibly thick. The walls were coated in dust, not a single trace of moisture. Flanagan walked about 200 yards. He was just about to turn back, but his pickaxe didn't strike stone. It hit metal. At first, he didn't get it. A silver vein? But veins don't ring like a bell. He struck it again. Metal, at least an inch thick. He cleared the dirt away with his bare hands and saw a door, forged iron, heavy rivets, no rust, no dents. It looked like it had just been installed, but nobody installed it. The mine had been operating for 20 years. Miners had walked this drift hundreds of times, and suddenly, a door. From where? Flanagan pulled the door open. An empty void lay behind it. He lowered his lamp. At first, nothing. Then, stairs, stone steps, leading down, perfectly cut. No chips, no rough edges. Someone built a staircase in a place where there should be absolutely nothing but solid bedrock. He estimated the stairs dropped another 200 to 300 feet. To where? He had no idea. He stood right on the threshold, one boot on the top step, his heart pounding in his chest, and he didn't take the next step. He told himself, the water is in the other direction. He turned around and buried the door under a pile of rocks. He finished his shift, rode the cage up to the surface. The foreman asked, "Find any water?" Flanagan said, "No." He lied for the first time in 14 years, but it wasn't because he was afraid of a penalty. He was terrified they would force him to go back down there, or that someone else would. He didn't sleep a wink that night. 3 days later, it was Easter. He took a clean sheet of paper and wrote down everything, what he saw, what he found, and exactly why he didn't go any further. 4 pages, tiny, cramped handwriting. Was Flanagan illiterate? Nope. Educated in Ireland. He could read, write, and kept a journal his whole life. He wrote, "I found a room, not a mine drift, not an explosives chamber, a room with flat walls, carved so smooth it looked like they were polished. There were symbols on the walls, not words, not names, geometric patterns, circles, zigzags, diamonds. Someone carved them a very long time ago. I caved in the entrance. I didn't want to go back, but I couldn't get it out of my head. The stairs were warm. The stone was warm. There was a breeze blowing up from the bottom. How is there a breeze 3,000 feet underground?" Flanagan never told a soul about his discovery. Not his wife, not his kids, not his priest, not back then. He finally quit the mines in 1908. His body was completely broken, lungs packed with silica dust, heart barely ticking. In 1909 he got into bed and never got out. Right before the end, he called for the priest. Not for absolution. For 30 years he had carried one massive burden. The fact that he didn't walk down those stairs, and the fact that he kept his mouth shut. He just needed someone to know. The priest listened for 3 hours, wrote down every word. He asked, "Do you want me to tell someone?" Flanagan replied, "I just want the record to exist. What they do with it isn't my problem." Patrick Flanagan died on November 14th, 1909. The priest kept his word. The record survived for exactly 3 months. And then the page vanished. The priest swore he didn't rip it out. Someone had access to the vestry. Someone knew the record existed, and someone desperately wanted it gone. Mary Flanagan, his daughter, didn't trust the church. She had already copied the page into the family Bible while her dad was still breathing. When the priest told her the record was lost, she wasn't surprised. She just said, "I know, I was expecting that." She had her back up, and she guarded it with her life. Mary passed away in 1949. The Bible went to her niece. The niece had zero clue what was inside. She opened it completely by accident 20 years later, saw the yellowed paper, read it, crossed herself, and locked the Bible in a drawer. She didn't destroy the page, but she sure didn't show it to anyone either, for another 30 years. In 1989, her daughter, Kathleen O'Brien, Flanagan's great-granddaughter, handed the Bible over to the Nevada Historical Society. She figured a state archive would preserve the document, make copies, digitize it, open it up to researchers. She was dead wrong. The archivist told her, "We'll accept this, but we can't promise it'll make it into the catalog." Kathleen asked why. They told her, "We have documents we keep, but don't show. It's standard practice." Kathleen walked out. She never went back. In 2015, a Stanford researcher filed a formal request for the Flanagan family papers. The archive's response? "Materials have not yet been processed. Please check back in 5 to 10 years. Not processed. It's been over 115 years since Flanagan died. 35 years since the papers were handed over. And they're still unprocessed. So what is the big deal about what Flanagan found? According to official geology, the rock at the 3,000-foot mark is Silurian shale. It's 400 million years old. There is no such thing as natural artificial cavities in it, no perfectly square rooms, and definitely no stairs. But Flanagan swore the walls were carved, perfectly flush. Someone hollowed out solid shale. Shale is incredibly hard to cut, even with modern diamond-tipped gear. What did the builders use to cut those stairs? Copper chisels? Highly unlikely. In 1998, a geologist named John T. White from the University of Nevada ran tests on core samples from the 3,000-foot level. His report noted evidence of thermal alteration on several fragments. Thermal alteration means exposure to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the melting point of shale, inside a mine where the only heat sources were literal candles and oil lamps. Someone was melting the rock. Why? To make the walls smooth. That wasn't a mine shaft. That was a room. Someone constructed a room over half a mile underground, straight into 400-million-year-old bedrock. But there's one detail that really messes with your head. The steps on that staircase were short, maybe 5 or 6 inches high. A modern stair step is 7 inches. Those weren't built for a normal human stride. They were built for someone much shorter, or maybe someone much taller. Flanagan never explicitly mentioned the step size, but his daughter left a margin note on her copy. Father said the steps weren't meant for people like us. They were meant for someone else. In 1974, a crew of cavers mapped a cave system under Nevada. They hit an artificial tunnel 600 feet down. They were immediately pulled out due to technical issues. The tunnel wasn't just blocked off, it was welded shut, with a heavy steel grate welded directly into the rock face. Someone really didn't want anyone going in there. The Comstock mine officially shut down in the 1940s, but the federal government kept access to the lower levels. The official story? Groundwater monitoring. They've been monitoring the water for 80 years. 0 public reports have been published, 0 public water samples analyzed, but the access shafts are heavily guarded. In 2018, an independent researcher filed a request to access the 3,000-foot level. Denied. The excuse? Risk of collapse. The mine hasn't caved in for 80 years. Risk of collapse is just the perfect bureaucratic loophole. It requires no proof. It can't be appealed. it shuts down the conversation instantly. In 2022, the USGS released a map of underground voids in Nevada. It shows thousands of caves, but the exact area around the Comstock mine, a blank white square. No explanation, not labeled "no data," not labeled "unexplored," just deliberately wiped from the map. Someone decided that specific grid square shouldn't exist. In 2023, a crowd-funded expedition tried to raise money to send drones down the shafts. They raised $40,000 in 2 weeks. Their flight permits were revoked 48 hours before launch. The reason given? Unforeseen circumstances. The money was refunded to donors. The expedition was killed. Who pulled the plug? The Bureau of Land Management, the exact same agency that oversees special geological zones. Nevada has 14 of them. The Comstock mine is one. The 3,000-foot level is ground zero. What's down there? Officially, nothing. Unofficially, exactly what Flanagan saw. A door, stairs, warm air, and symbols he couldn't decode. Patrick Flanagan passed away on November 14, 1909. His tombstone reads, "Miner, husband, father, he saw what no man has seen." Not a single word about what he saw, just that he saw it. His family knew, but they kept their mouths shut. In 1962, the last miner who ever worked a shift with Flanagan died in a nursing home in Carson City. His name was Michael O'Brien. He was with Flanagan that exact day. He never breathed a word of the story to anyone, not even on his deathbed. He just looked at the nurse and said, "What he saw isn't for me. It's not for any of us." Not for us? Then who is it for? For the ones who built the stairs? For the ones who carved the symbols? For whoever is coming back? The Comstock mine is still there. The entrance to the 3,000-foot level is gated off, guarded, but it isn't empty. In 2012, a work crew heard a hum coming from deep below, a low, rhythmic thumping, like a massive industrial pump, but the pumps were ripped out 30 years ago. The humming stopped the second they got close to the grate, like whoever or whatever was making it knew they were listening. In 2024, I sent a formal inquiry to the Nevada State Archives asking about the status of the Flanagan family papers. The response? Still unprocessed. Please check back in a few years. A few years? Maybe 10? Maybe 50? Maybe never. Flanagan's story isn't going to get any easier to explain with time. The mystery is only going deeper. That staircase at 3,000 feet is still down there, waiting. Will anyone ever walk down those steps? Or will it stay the secret of a dying miner forever? If you want to know what else they're hiding in these unprocessed archives, hit subscribe. In our next video, we're tracking down a miner who dropped 4,000 feet in 1883 and never came back, but his journal did. Thanks for watching until the very end. Drop your questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer the ones that actually can be answered.